Bigger than capes.
Give me some sadness.
I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Right.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach, and this week I'm joined by Angela. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Live and in person.
Live.
In recording.
Yeah. I don't think we could hack a live episode.
It would just be chaos and madness and...
I just think we could be one of those, like, you know, like you get at Comic Cons where they have like a live podcast recorded in one of the rooms.
Stream,
with the enthusiastic audience.
And people pop in and out and say hi and sell things to you and concepts and ideas, and then they just go away again.
I think we could sell people some concepts and ideas.
Yeah.
I guess the real question here is, which con? Who wants us?
Who wants us?
I think we'll have dozens of audience. Literally dozens of us.
Dozens.
I referenced that one line from Arrested Development, I'm pretty sure, every podcast. But we're like, I don't know, nearly 60 episodes deep now. It's too soon to back down. No, too soon to back down, too late to back down.
Too late. It was too soon a while ago.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's too soon to back down on constant references.
Yeah, it is.
So... here we are to talk about Arrested Development.
Didn't see that one coming, did you?
I bet I could do an Arrested Development podcast, but it would be hard.
But you could come up with a cool name. I don't know. Because you can do a play on Arrested Development, I assume.
I can try it. Leave that with me.
That'll
be the next spin-off that I propose that never happens.
Revisit that later.
So, we're here now. As we did a few weeks ago to talk about one of your favourite comics from the last year.
Yes.
This has been our plan to kind of catch up on trades we didn't talk about very much or things we didn't feature in the kind of monthly roundups. So we're kind of finding them in trade.
Yeah.
We did Time Before Time and Exo Manowar some weeks ago.
Yep.
Not that long ago, I don't think.
I can't
January,
remember.
I think.
It's all a blur.
And here we are with... Yep. Well, I'm going to let you do the introducing. So.
Yeah. So this is Jules Verne's Lighthouse, which is from Shadowline Imprint of Image, for those of you who care about the difference. So the story was by David Hine and Brian Haberlin. The art was by Brian Haberlin. The colours were Geirrod van Dyke. The letters were by Francis Takenaga. And I'm also going to shout out to production, Hannah Wall and Matt Hansel. I've no idea what you did, but your production, so good on you. So Jules Verne's Lighthouse. There is a book by Jules Verne, which is called The Lighthouse at the End of the World, which doesn't bear a great deal of resemblance to this book, aside from character names and a general concept about a lighthouse at the end of the world. So this particular lighthouse is located in space near a whole bunch of wormholes. Yeah, the Stormfront is the actual name where it is. And it's on there and it helps guide ships through the wormholes, and that's how it is. And we have Captain Morgan, who isn't a rum drinker, but...
Captain Morris.
Why is it Captain Morgan? Oh, my brain. Right. And on this particular space, there are various characters, one of whom is our central character, which is Maria You can pronounce it. Your Spanish pronunciation is slightly better than mine.
Maria Vasquez.
Thank you. And, you know, life's ticking along. She has her nanny bot, Moses, keeping an eye on her. She's a war veteran. Things are ticking along when suddenly someone on the space station betrays them. Pirates come along, take the place over. Spoilers, slaughter several people, including the captain. And Maria then finds herself pitted against these pirates to try and prevent them from stealing weapons, and she needs to take back the lighthouse. And action and adventure ensues is a rough summary.
Yeah, I think that covers most of what is here. I hadn't heard of the Jules Verne book until this turned up.
Nor had I.
Jolly good. I think that's one of the things I never dug too deep into Jules Verne, so...
No, I found him a little... The only reason I ever read him was because he's referenced in Back to the Future, which is... Perhaps not the greatest read. And also Around the World in 80 Days was a fabulous cartoon back in the day. But that was all my Jules Verne knowledge, basically. I've read a little bit.
I've always been more of a H.G. Wells kind of guy, so...
Slightly, yeah. There you go, there's a concept. Base a comic on H.G. Wells. I'm sure that's been done.
I feel like War of the Worlds at the very least.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And others.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind, but I feel like it must be out there. So yeah, this was pretty new to me. From my understanding of the conversation we've had, this is not reminiscent of the book that much.
Not that much. There are, like I said, there's certain plot beats in that you have a central, the character names are the same and their roles are kind of the same. There's no robot called Moses in the book. Disappointing.
Already worse, yeah.
Disappointing. And there's not even a character, as far as I can remember, called Moses in the book. But the basic concept is the same. There are some points where, like, the main characters are underground or sort of in a cave, and the characters in the book also spend some time in a cave, as you do. I think the book ending is more hopeful than this in some regards.
Yeah, this isn't exactly,
It's not cheery. Gonna be honest, there's not a huge amount of... It's not a happy book in many ways. The book is... the comic book is less optimistic than the written book, I would say. But yeah, basically the written book, if you've ever read Treasure Island, it's kind of similar to Treasure Island. That's the closest reference point I can fling out there.
Okay.
Whereas the comic takes things in a different direction and does more with the pirates to a certain degree as well, sort of fleshes them out a bit, and the morality in the comic is less... It's shades of grey rather than black and white.
Yeah, it's hard to know who really is the good guy and who really is the bad guy. So I think it's clear at the end.
Yeah.
But until we get there, it's kind of...
It's your point of view. From a certain point of view.
Yeah, from one point of view, Captain Congra.
Yeah, Congra. We'll go with that.
I'm going with. And the Free State of Libertaria are the bad guys.
Yeah.
But from another point of view, their point of view, the conglomerate are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So I guess that keeps it difficult to kind of pin down whose side you're on. And
yeah,
I think whilst Maria is like the focus we're given, how do I want to say this in words? It's understandable why they think she's the bad guy. Yeah,
because there is a history there. She fought in the war to subjugate...
The Seraphim Wars.
Yeah, that's the ones. It just makes me think of angels. That just the very name just makes me think of angels fighting each other. But yeah, so there is a history there, whereas she was basically their oppressor during the war, as it were.
Yes.
And so they do have reason to dislike her. But at the same time, she's a very sympathetic character because she's carrying a whole ton of baggage.
Yeah, the war has done damage to both sides.
Yeah, and you can see that it's not so much... The real evil is the people in charge. Like, it wasn't particularly necessarily the soldiers on the ground, like Maria, and it wasn't necessarily the rebels on the ground. The ultimate bad guys are the people that flung these people into the meat grinder of war in the first place.
Pretty much, yeah. Well said. So... I'll be honest, I read the first issue of this, I want to say, last summer.
It was ages ago, yeah.
And liked the first issue, and then you ran wild reviewing each issue on the website.
Yes.
That's bigger than capes.com.
Yeah, they're all there.
Yeah, you can find all of Angela's reviews of every comic.
that I have read.
And I kind of let you run off with this and didn't really carry on with it. And historically, it's been shown that we agree with each other.
Yeah, traditionally, if you've listened to the Roundup episodes, there's a definite split.
Yeah, there's a Matt and Will, Zach and Angela
Yeah,
divide normally.
there is, yeah.
So I don't know why I was surprised when this is exactly as good as you've said it is, but it is. So good call.
Thank you. I have good taste.
I feel like eventually you're going to be wrong, but
I've not been wrong yet.
not yet. No.
Not yet.
So I don't know. I'm glad you're right about this.
Thank you.
Wow, you've got incredibly smug, incredibly fast here.
The ego's growing.
I just think from the get-go, it does really well kind of to set the scene and establish the characters we have. Even with the pirates, we're kind of introduced to a lot of them.
Yeah.
And as the issues develop, it's kind of picked out which ones matter more.
Yeah.
But even though it's pretty character heavy, it kind of stays manageable. A lot of them get shot, so I guess that...
It is handy that many of them don't get attached, is what we're saying.
3 get shot quite quickly.
Yeah.
So the ones we're left with, which are Congré.
Yeah.
I'm just going back and forth.
Yeah.
Carcanti,
Yep.
Siren, Amethyst, Dr. K, and Bedlam are the group.
They're the group that survive.
Yes.
And interestingly, not all of those names appear in the original book.
Okay.
But you don't get to know, it's only sort of Congré and Cacante who actually appear in the book or are named and actually have proper roles. So it's nice to see some fleshing out of pirates. At least they have names, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things we kind of see quite recognizable characters here. And there is a sense that, to begin with, that they are just recognizable kind of characters to have around. But then they are named and kind of given some information. We learn... I think Bedlam is the only one that we don't really get more info on.
Yeah.
It's like we're told kind of why Amethyst and Dr. K wear masks. We're told that Siren is sentient liquid.
Basically.
So many questions about that, but hey, maybe one day I'll get some answers. I don't know. But I think this kind of works well. We kind of have an immediate like mystery setup of, hey, the part of the space station that we can go outside on has just a badly buried corpse. And
who is this corpse?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple kind of, here's a dead body setup that's been here for years apparently, but it's a setup that I think opens the door to bigger things in play, and we get those answers. There were some points in this where I was concerned we weren't going to get those answers, and I don't think we do until like nearly the end. Yeah,
you do have to hang on a bit for answers.
I mean,
you get them.
It's a simple answer, and it's an answer that makes sense, but it is good that we're kind of filled in on, hey, why was there a corpse in issue 1?
Yeah. Hey, we've not forgotten that plot point. Here you go.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything unnecessary in the plot. I think everything is quite smoothly put together.
Yep.
So basically the plan of the Free State of Libertaria, Captain Congré and the Pirates, as I'm going to be calling their band, is basically that they are taking over the lighthouse with the intention of intercepting a conglomerate ship which contains all the weapons from the Seraphim War that they didn't use.
Yeah.
All the things that officially don't exist. So the terrifying chemical weapons and biological weapons and the dangerous mech suits and...
all of the stuff that they can use to get their own back on the conglomerate.
Yes. This is the most anyone's ever said conglomerate.
Conglomerate. I'm losing, losing the ability to pronounce it, but yeah.
So there's an interesting amount of kind of details packed into what's on the ship, I think. The kind of vague concepts like the ooze are then padded out later on, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
So I think there's a good amount of detail and a good amount of planning to every aspect of this. I mean, to be fair, okay, they're building on Jules Verne, which is probably a solid
It's
foundation.
a good starting point, but it's got more, I don't want to say more depth than Jules Verne, because, you know, one of France's greatest ever writers.
He's no David Hine.
But I think they take the ideas that Jules Verne's thrown at us and just basically run with the concept.
Yeah, and I think it helps that David Hine is someone who has done quite a lot of comics, in my understanding. I think the first things from David Hine that I kind of stumbled into were Son of M, and I think is it Silent War as well that comes after that, where the Inhumans fight the Fantastic Four, but because of Quicksilver,
reasons.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been reading David Hine's books on and off for, like 20 years now.
Let's all feel old.
Wow. Was House of M really like 2000?
It was a long while ago.
2004? Anyway, so not thinking about that. I think David Hine's a pretty consistent writer. I don't know if he's necessarily the most celebrated at times.
He's one of those hard grafters in the background who just does his thing.
Yeah.
And
like, I don't know how many people picked up Son of M. I don't know how many people have dug into, I don't know, the issues of Spawn he's done, or the issues of what else we got. Like, did he do Spider-Man Noir? I think he did Spider-Man Noir, which I've also read. And Joker's Asylum. Wow. Only I read Joker's, I think.
We're delving deep now.
I think the official count of readers for Joker's Asylum were just me.
Maybe one other person.
It was a good idea. Like an anthology comic told by the Joker. That's not bad.
It's a fine concept.
What was the point?
David Hine.
Yes. Has a
pedigree.
Yeah, and to have been working in comics for like 20-something years now, and still be kind of not the biggest name, says a lot about commitment to just writing books. And I respect that a lot. I think I've enjoyed all of his stuff that I've read, and I liked this a lot. And I think Brian
Haberlin.
Yeah, Brian Haberlin. Has now, the next book he's done after this is Hellcop, right? Which he's written on his own.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a kind of launch pad for his writing, I guess. I don't know much of Brian Haberlin's work either.
No, it's certainly a launch pad because he did the art on this.
Yeah.
And he does all the art on the Hellcop. And we should probably at some point talk about the art, because I know that it's not necessarily the kind of art that everyone's going to like, and it is a particular style, shall we say. I think the other thing is Hellcop is also Brian
Haberlin's done loads.
Yeah, he has. He's done.
I forgot about the marked.
Yeah, so Hellcop is an ongoing. It's just done its first. Well, it's finished its first arc.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah. So this, I think, benefits from the fact that it is 5 and done.
Yeah.
It's a self-contained story, so they have to kind of wrap things up. It's sort of, I wouldn't say it's forcing them, because the number of writers who will drop stuff in there and then forget they've done it, and then they'll finish the book and we'll have no idea what, in actual fact, that thing meant, and it will forever annoy us. But these two are experienced enough that they've decided, yes, we'll do a complete story and we will wrap all up the loose ends.
Yeah, and I feel like you could do more with some of these characters.
I think you could, definitely.
But I think what we see is enough. And as as a kind of standalone one-off sci-fi book, I'm pretty okay with how this goes. I think everything is quite neatly tied together, so it never feels like anything outstays its welcome. I think everything is quite well structured. I agree with your point about the art. I think it isn't going to be to everyone's taste. I know Will isn't particularly.
He's not a fan of this style. No.
I quite liked it though. I think there's the
way it's
a realism to it that kind of suits the creepiness of certain sections. It feels kind of 3D animated in design. I feel like the animated series of this could look exactly like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Which isn't something I'm entirely against. It's something that used to annoy me with like artists like Fraser Irving.
Yeah. Who
I think has also done books with David Hine. But I ended up reading so much of his art that I came around to it eventually. And I'm a fan. I think it works here as well. I think it kind of suits the sci-fi story we're being told. Nothing feels too kind of ridiculous or overblown. Everything feels quite real. And
it does have that almost you could reach into it and touch it kind of quality at points.
I think one of my complaints would be that I think there's some action sequences that can feel a bit too static.
Yeah, certainly with the last couple of issues where there's more confrontation and fighty going on, for want of a better term.
But even then, I don't think it's a particularly bad thing. I think it's just, I think it can be common in comics, and common in comics. That's the thing I don't say a lot. Anyway, for things to be kind of stiff in action sequences.
Yeah, because it is ultimately 2D drawings in whatever manner that is. There's only so much you can do.
There's a limited amount of movement you can apply.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the art suits this really well. I think the mech suits and Moses and the kind of space suit designs. We haven't talked about Moses yet.
Moses.
Are you okay?
I know. Moses' design is just so good. And he as a character is just so good. So he's a nanny bot, and he's basically passed down through the family.
Yeah.
So he served Maria's mother. He wants to serve her daughter. I don't know what happens if they have a son. Does he pass the son? Who knows?
Not mentioned at all.
Not mentioned. What? That's a concept. That's a weird thing. But yeah, so he's just got layers because he starts off as like he's caring for Maria, and he still cares for Maria, but at the same time, it's the way he goes about it is sometimes quite creepy and a little bit psychotic.
It's an interesting one, I'll admit. He kind of starts this quite caring and friendly, and he does look like he's a weird designed robot because he seems quite friendly and approachable, but also terrifying. He has the same facial expression as an axolotl.
Yeah, he does. He does.
A kind of blank smile.
Yeah.
But also has this kind of terrifying body. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, is it all the stuff on his back that's kind
He's
of
got a lot of like spiky stuff sticking out of his back.
Wires and tubes and
has one arm that's definitely thicker than the other.
Yeah.
But I think he starts off quite friendly and, chill, I guess, almost.
Yeah.
Caring and calm. I think we have the recurring, Maria telling him to shut up and him being like, shutting up.
Yeah.
Which works. But then later on, he explains to Angie Davis, was she?
Yeah.
Angie Davis, who was a doctor from the ship full of weapons who manages to escape when the pirates intercept the ship.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of information to cram into 10 seconds. Moses convinces her to kind of alter his code so he can do some killing.
Yeah, basically he's programmed not to kill, so he gets Davis to override so he can go do the killings.
And I think so he kind of kills the guard that's guarding them when they've been captured by the pirates.
And he takes such glee in it as well. He's like, God, you don't know how long I've waited to do that.
Yeah, you can't imagine how long I wanted to do that. And I think at that moment it's funny, but it's this kind of low key
Sinister.
Like and yeah, he goes from kind of adorable to kind of threatening in like one fell swoop.
Yeah, like just a few panels. He's like, they're trying to escape, and then he's just like, just override it and I can,
get us right out of here.
He doesn't even say kill, I think. No, I'm not allowed to kill sentient beings. Yeah, that was it. He does tell her he can't kill, and then, but you can override and I'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah, and he rhymes off the kind of a section of like the Asimov laws.
It is, yeah. From the old days. But I like the way he says to David, my priority is to save my mistress. Yours is to prevent the pirates taking the conglomerate weaponry back to their home planet. And that becomes painfully apparent later on that his priority is Maria. And despite everything else that's going on, that is his priority above literally the lives and hopes and dreams and whatevers of every other living being in the galaxy.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of intensity to it.
Yeah.
That I think amps up as the book goes on. It also makes for a few real surprises. I think in issue 1, I don't think it seems like Moses is going to be like surprising throughout the plot and pushing this in weird directions.
Yeah, you just think, oh, cute robot.
Yeah, he's kind of integral, and yeah, I think without him this would be a very different story.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there isn't a Moses equivalent in the Jules Verne book.
So this is all David Hine.
So this is all David Hine and Brian Haberlin's great work. As far as I can remember, I'm just going to flick through the actual book. But as far as I'm aware, there isn't, because most of the actual book written by Jules Verne is basically Vasquez. I will have pronounced that incorrectly. Yeah. And John Davis is called in the book because that's what I also like, is they've gender bent the characters as well.
Yes, they've definitely added some variety, and Felipe, I think he's non-binary as well. Yeah, or at least hinted at being.
And then you've got Ek. I can't pronounce his name.
I can't do the full name, but no. Ek was the short.
Ek, who is the short alien.
And I think it's not as straightforward as you expect from a book written 100 years ago. Yeah, I would expect this to be incredibly kind of male characters.
They're all guys for obvious reasons, because that's the world Jules Verne's writing in. So it's nice that because Vasquez's actual Maria's background isn't actually that different to the male character in the book, in that he is also a war veteran who has seen bad things. It's treated, I think, I don't want to say necessarily better, because the idea of military PTSD didn't really exist when Jules Verne was around.
Yeah.
But it is dived into and delved into and expanded on more in the comic, which is a good thing. Yeah,
I think it's a big part of the Vasquez character and shapes who she is here.
Yeah.
And explains a lot of her motivations, which is good that it's dealt with, and it's not just, here we are calling you the Butcher of Colère or the Beast of Colère, and then to show that that's had an effect is something that not all books would do, but is a good detail to establish that she isn't just a heartless killing machine turned Lighthouse attendee.
Yeah, there's a reason that she's picked this as an assignment, because
Yeah.
she doesn't think she can really face her family. That comes up because she has a daughter and
Zena.
And we're like, you know, a lot of what she does is related to how she thinks her daughter's going to view her. And
Yeah.
she doesn't want her daughter to view her as the butcher. She wants her to be not necessarily proud of her, but even just not viewing her as an evil war criminal.
I mean, you know, so little to ask in the grand scheme.
Yeah, look, I killed a bunch of people, but please don't hold it
ages
against
ago,
me.
come on.
I've moved on. Yeah.
No, I think that's key to the character, is trying to move past the terrible things that have happened in the war. And I guess we almost see the opposite of that with the pirates who can't move past.
No. Physically,
Yeah.
in many respects.
So we see the two different sides of both sides heavily affected by the war, but one side trying to grow past it and accept it, and the other side still want that sweet, sweet revenge.
Yeah.
And with good reason.
I mean, they've been disfigured. They've lost family. They've had their lives ruined, essentially. You can kind of see where the need for revenge has come from.
Yeah, I think that this is what makes it such a strong book, is from Vasquez's point of view, the pirates are the bad guys, but from the pirates' point of view, the conglomerate are the bad guys. And as the beast / butcher of Color, so is Vasquez. So it's hard to. I think everyone is in a moral grey area, as we've said, and everyone kind of sucks in their own special way.
Yeah, and no one in this, including the robot, is morally above anyone else. They're all. I mean, you could argue maybe Davis.
Yeah, Davis. I feel like we don't hear her kind of stance too heavily. So she's
probably more of an innocent in this than anyone else. Although, admittedly, she was on a conglomerate ship that was transporting weapons, including biological weapons that can kill
we're
people
told
in
she's
horrible ways.
the kind of chemical engineer.
Yeah,
so I guess
maybe she's not. There you get. You see, you can't even the ones you think, yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, we're not really given too much to go off of what her real level was. Captain Morris? No, I mean, he's creepy.
He's creepy. He's creepy. He hits on women. Again, no one really comes. It's interesting because when you read the first issue, your sympathy is against the pirates. It's like, oh, they are definitely the bad guys. And then you sort of get into it a bit more, you go, maybe they're not the bad guys. Maybe everyone's the bad guys.
Yeah, and I think it's well structured in that. And I don't know. There is definitely a point where you think Moses and Davis are like the solid good guys.
Yeah.
And that doesn't last for more than a couple of pages.
No.
It's really well structured. The whole story is told in such a good, compelling way. I think I read all of this in like a few hours. It's ridiculously easy to read.
Yeah.
And
because I was so upset, because I read this in singles, and I was just every week I was like, is it not here? Is it not here? And it was so good. It was one of those where I was desperately waiting for the next issue to come out.
Yeah, and I can see what I mean. Even in issue 1, I think when the pirates arrive on the ship and are meant to not be pirates until the reveal of, oh, the captain's here, he's the one on the unicorn. He's such a, what's that now?
Yeah.
Never really addressed what that's about.
No.
And I'm kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well because the initial group of pirates we see are the group of pirates we come to see repeatedly.
Yeah.
So it's only the ones that don't matter that we only see once as they get shot.
Briefly, yes, as they die. Terribly.
But I don't know. I like the cast of characters we're given. I think, despite the moral greyness of everyone, I think Moses, Vasquez, Congre, Kakante, Siren, they're all good. They're all some of them get more attention than others, but the ones that don't get a lot of attention at least get enough substance that you're kind of up to speed on who they are.
Yeah, and it's
except Bedlam.
Except Bedlam. Because it's like the betrayal thing, because you've got Eck and Felipe on who turn out to be turncoat type people.
Yes.
And the whole reason why Eck actually went down that road is kind of interesting, because it's like...
Yeah, it says a lot about the conglomerate and about us humans.
Yeah, us bad people. And Felipe, of course, there are several twists to Felipe's loyalties.
Felipe's complicated.
Felipe's very complicated. I was not expecting most of what came out with her, or them. Should we go with them? Because it is kind of...
Them, I think, yeah.
Them, because it is hinted. Yeah, but what they are up to, that was like, ooh.
Yes. It was interesting to me as well, because in the first issue, Felipe and Vasquez look very similar.
They do.
And originally I assumed there was going to be some connection there. And then each issue after that, I feel like there was an effort made to be like, no, they're not meant to look that similar.
Characters.
They've just got very similar haircuts.
Yeah, they are different, everybody. They are different.
Which is good, because that first issue where Felipe is playing the weird kazoo thing.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a few panels where it's like, what? Who are you people?
Who are you? What are you doing?
So spacing out them out, kind of putting them in different scenarios, and then casually flattening out Felipe's hair.
Yeah.
And changing the colours makes it clear that they're different people. But
yeah.
That was one of the few things in the art that I was confused by.
Yeah, I was going to say that is one of the that was one of the few problems, if you will, with the art that they do correct. So, or he do correct, I should say. Brian corrects.
Yes.
And it works much better when that's been done, because like I said, they're more distinct.
It's just flicking through as well. It's a go-to thing in comics, but when we see the like treasure trove hoard of crap that Captain Morris has, his kind of secret room full of, pirate costumes and sex robots and framed portraits of himself.
Yeah, those are my favourite.
It's the kind of thing we see a lot in comics, but I'm always a big fan of the room full of stuff. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it goes back to those early days reading comics where you've got like the Batcave with the giant penny and the dinosaur and the curiosity of what the hell are all these things. But I'm still a big fan anytime that a comic is like, and here's this character's room full of random junk.
Yeah, here's his stuff.
So yeah, I like that, and I like that Moses is like, I could scan all of his journals page by page if he hadn't written them on paper like some kind of monster.
Yes.
But I like that even things like that, even Moses reading all of the captain's journals comes to pay off later on in the book. That he knows more about Felipe and Eck and Vasquez than...
Yeah.
Well, he knows about them from Captain Morris's point of view, which is an interesting kind of addition to the story, to be like, hey, Moses can do anything, so he's
doing,
I mean, we also see him as a kind of walking pharmacy at times.
He's a bit of Deus Ex Machina to a certain degree, but in the best ways.
Yeah, he solves multiple problems very quickly, and it still works, though.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think there's any point where he seems like he's pushing the realms of possibility. As a kind of nanny bot, I think the idea that could just,
do all these things,
knock together some medication for
as
you.
you do, yeah.
It makes some
It makes sense.
weird sense,
In
but
a weird
some
way.
sense.
It does.
I feel like we're talking about this book in a very random,
We're not
unstructured order.
under structure, but we jump around a bit because but the book doesn't. The book doesn't. But there's also, touching back on that, there's also that bit of humour as well. Like, it is pretty bleak because we're looking at people who've been through a war, and that's not great. But there is still those little moments of humour where, like, even when Moses just reveals the secret lair and she's like, how did you find this? He's like, yeah, I just followed him. I just wanted to know where he went to for ages. Like, I've just been following him.
Yeah, I that's true. There's sections like that are just like, oh, okay, yeah, fair. I think Moses is quite funny.
Yeah.
Whether intentional or not, at times it's hard to know. I think there are times when the character is being funny, and there are times where he's just coincidentally funny.
Yeah.
But I guess that's digging into the depths of how much does the character know about himself, and that's complicated.
It is.
We talked earlier about kind of Brian Haberlin's art being quite realistic, but I also think the colouring is very kind of... So it's Geirrod van Dyke?
Yes.
I think colouring feels very natural and very real. It's got that sense where you feel like the kind of like the angle of light has been considered in every panel, and
it's not just because I think people think that with digital art, they've just, to be fair,
just throw some colour at it.
Yeah, throw some colour. To be fair, all comic book art generally these days ends up digital, but still, just the fact that there has been clearly, as you said, there's been an effort to work out where the light's coming from, what sort of colours do we use here to make it look as good as possible.
Yes, and things like that must be hard when it's largely indoors in space.
Yeah.
Where's your light?
Where is your light? What is going on?
Natural light kind of stops being a thing.
And then later on, she's in a cave. She was in a cave. Yes. I did remember she was in a cave. And that's difficult to sort of colour where literally you're fighting weird beasties in the dark.
The Zurfins?
The Zurfins.
The weird, like space boar things?
Space boar, hoggy, piggy boar things, yeah. And it's not easy to actually try and colour something that's literally in a cave, but it works.
It really does. Art overall, I think, we've touched on the art as the actual art style, but like panel layout, colouring,
the panel, that's one of the things I said when I reviewed it, issue by issue, was the panels are interesting, like the way the panels are used. There's that bit where she's kind of having a bit of a breakdown in the escape pod when she's just seen a whole bunch of people die. Yeah. And she's just like, it's happening again, it's not my fault. And you just get the tumbling panels that just go close up on her face. And it's just nice. I like this sort of, I like it when they just try and do something a little different with the art, and I think they're certainly doing that, and it works really well, and it suits the story.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everything here fits together really well, and I was surprised. I didn't have high expectations. I didn't really know anything about this going in, like when the first issue came out.
Yeah.
I feel like some image books we're told about repeatedly, and we see the press releases.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Things like, I don't know, not to go back to the same examples, but
you know what we're talking about if you've read image books.
Spawn.
Pretty much.
Spawn has been very pushed the last few months, and we've been told about Spawn a lot, and there are other books that I think have had a lot of pushing recently. Stuff. I think What's the Furthest Place from Here has actually been quite like, hey, what's the furthest place from here? And admittedly, it's not all Image. It's also the creators and how much
they promote their own work. Yeah.
But I think this was very under the radar. I feel like I don't know a lot of people who check this out other than us.
No, well, if you look at the back, like normally on the back of a trade, you get, comments from big websites like, I don't know,
biggerthancapes.com.
Yeah, well, we are on the back. But like, there's not the big sites, like the big comic reviewing sites,
like
comicbook.com. That is one. Or Adventures in Poor Taste, or oh god, all those are the ones I read and can't remember them now. Bleeding Cool.
Are they still a thing?
Yeah,
IGN.
Any of those folk. Normally they are all quoted on the back. They're not. There's me, there's the Fanboy Factor, Biff Bam Bop. I mean, Monkeys Fighting Robots is quite big.
Yeah.
And Space.com. But there's none of the big sites that seem to have also covered this, because I like to look at other people's reviews because I'm weird. And there were none that...
You just need confirmation that you're correct.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I just like to know that I am right. But no one else particularly seemed to be covering it, or like there weren't many articles about previews for the next issue or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true. And I've known a lot of people who are weirdly dismissive of sci-fi books.
Yeah.
Because of Saga. Which has always confused me. I know loads of people who kind of wrote like Descender, like 6 volumes, great creative team, celebrated by us and many others.
And many people.
But I know people who didn't like Descender because it wasn't Saga. And
there's your problem.
Insane things like that. So I do wonder how many sci-fi books kind of slip under people's radar because they're not Saga, which is such an odd way to be. And I quite like, I think we all quite like the standalone 1-volume, straight to graphic novel type books. So something like this, I guess, appeals to us more than it will to other people. Similarly, did I just make a word up? Similarly. Stuff like Hellcop is kind of out there fantasy that I think both of us have been interested in, but I don't know. So, I mean, I think we'll be back here in 2-3 months doing a Hellcop episode.
The trade is out. The first trade is out very soon.
Oh, cool.
By very soon, I mean within like a month or so, yeah.
All right, that's fine. I normally expect them to still take like...
forever.
For a while. No, not forever, but a while. Yeah.
But no, it is a great show because I don't think this book's had the traction and promotion and stuff that it needs, because it is really good. I mean, it's listed as science fiction / thriller on the back.
I think that kind of fits it.
Which is true. So yeah, it is a shame that it's not got more coverage.
Definitely. I've really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that I read it all for this episode. It's further proof that Angela's normally right.
Yes, true. If in doubt.
If in doubt, just assume Angela was right about it.
Pretty much.
But I would quite happily have more from any and all of this creative team.
Yeah.
And I think we will get that. It's interesting. Yeah. I hope, as we've said, I Was in the Dark and David Hine and Brian Haberlin have done quite a lot together, particularly Image.
Yeah.
But I would like to see some of these books kind of become more pride of place a little bit. I mean,
they've put it on the Shadowline imprint, which is an interesting choice, I feel.
I feel like as comic readers, though, I feel like the different image imprints don't matter too much to people in store.
When they see image, as long as it's got image on it, it's an image book.
Yeah, I feel like if you're sure, there'll be people who've been into image for a long time who will be like hardcore shadow liners.
I'm going that way.
I don't know if I've met many of them, but like I'm sure there are hardcore Top Cow people and. Is it still Todd McFarlane Productions? Is that?
I assume so.
It was. I don't know if that's still a thing.
I assume he still has his name on that. Yeah.
And like Kirkman's imprint as well. Skybound.
Skybound, yeah.
So I assume there will be people who gravitate towards those imprints, but I think we're quite broadly interested in just Image as a company.
Yeah.
We do read a lot of Image books.
We do. They're good though. That's
why.
I
mean, that's the reason. So
and there's a lot of them.
But with this, I would encourage people to check this out. I think it's a really good standalone sci-fi book. That's really well streamlined and really neatly constructed. I keep saying the word neat.
It is though. It's neat. I'm using that in the all phrases of the terms of the words.
So I'm not sure I have much more to add. I feel like I could rattle on in different directions.
We could continue to say how good it is in different ways, but at the end of the day, it's a really good book and it deserves to be more widely read. And if you like a bit, I mean, if you're into Jules Verne, if you've read The Lighthouse at the End of the World, why not read this just to compare?
If you're into space pirates.
If you're into space pirates.
If you're into regular pirates.
If you're into normal pirates. Regular pirates.
I can't speak.
Yeah, but I think it has got a lot to offer. Yes, it's sci-fi, but I think people have this idea, like I said, like the saga sci-fi, and it's science fiction in comics is just far more than that, and this is a great example as to why it's an interesting genre. And
I don't feel like this is a huge universe sci-fi type story where there's loads. I feel like there's a lot of this world packed into quite a small space. All the information you need is here, rather than being this kind of like Descender or Saga was massive universe concepts where it takes 6 volumes or longer to show you the world. I think this just gives you the world and isn't too complicated about it. It's just, this is the deal. Conglomerate, pirates, lighthouse, wormholes. Why were there no other ships coming through the wormholes?
Well, is that because of the twist at the end where we actually, it could be Eck. And is it also because we find out what exactly the conglomerate is up to at the very end?
Oh yeah, true. Maybe it is neatly.
Either way.
Perhaps we'll never know.
No.
But I've really enjoyed this, and I think other people would. And
agreed.
I think you're right. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I'll get on a badge. Angela is always right. I'll get it on a t-shirt.
The next Bigger Than Capes merch line.
That's it.
Not had any merch lines yet. But...
but when we do.
So yeah, I think that's us.
Yeah.
Unless you've got something.
No. Go read this book. That's all I have to say.
So yeah, go read Jules Verne's Lighthouse. Check out Angela's reviews at biggerthancapes.com.
Yeah.
If you like this, if you like our reviews, support us on Ko-fi.
Yep.
And we have been Angela and Zach, collectively Bigger Than Capes, and will continue to be.
Indeed.
And remember that comics are bigger than capes.